Politicians, whether you like it or not, they control your life. We should never, ever at any given time disassociate ourselves from politics. We are all politicians, but it's only that others are sent to go and represent other politicians.
Man is by nature a political animal. So today we're talking politics. Today, we've got a rare Mpho Balopi talking to us about being a politician from a Botswana and African context. Welcome, Balopi.
No, thank you very much.
Why should you, when you are leading a country that's just got poverty, people who can't put a roof over their heads, what gives the servant leadership the right to drive top-of-the-range vehicle? This thing of these envoys of cars stopping people. I mean, I don't know if these guys can go into the public transport, that the people who vote them, jump onto the combi.
Politicians should be people who look at the lives of other people as the lives are currently and see how those lives can be improved. African politics is such that maybe at times we go into this politics looking for a job. The Hamas of those years, they were selfless. I'm not saying they were perfect, but they did a lot more than what we are not able to do ourselves right now because there's too much individualism. Is it important to have more security and tankers and many vehicles around me and protect myself? What protects the electorate out there? We are requested to declare assets when we became, members of parliament and ministers. I was heartbroken. I even went to bed. I looked at the copy of my submission when I became a minister and member of parliament, what I had
at the time,
looking at my account balances,
the asset base has deteriorated
completely. and I can, anybody who wants to test it, can come.
Would you look me in the eye right now, despite your asset base having deteriorated? Would you say there are others whose asset base have actually 10x'd and grew by virtue of the positions?
Let me not explicitly say yes or no. If anyone's asset base increased and tenfold and whatever, there's something amiss.
Something amiss.
Welcome to the Growth Well podcast, where we tap into a well of knowledge, innovation, and leadership to fuel Africa's growth. Here, we explore thought-provoking insights and expert knowledge that empower individuals and businesses to thrive across the continent. Whether it's personal development or professional advancement, our conversations inspire action and impact. This is Growth Well, where ideas flow and growth begins. Let's dive in.
Hi, we're back to Growth Well podcast. Today, this is what Aristotle said. Man is by nature a political animal. So today we're talking politics. Believe it or not. Not party politicking. And my friend Mpho here promised, yes, we shall stick to the code. Why politics is because we talk about Africa rise, we talk about Botswana rise, and nothing will happen until the quality of the political leadership can really deliver. That is why today we've got a rare Mpho Balopi talking to us about being a politician from a Botswana and African context. Yeah. Welcome, Balopi.
No, thank you very much.
I'm really looking forward to it.
Yes, very exciting topic.
Very much. And then the first thing, we usually start on a light moment. So let me start by just throwing something here from a light perspective. It's quite interesting. We were discussing it before I came here, what I've talked about these sort of health interventions that are very cheap and people can do. And I've talked about the cold shower. A lot of people have actually contacted me. Hey, but one guy told me, practice the cold shower in the morning, and says I can actually feel the difference.
Even in winter?
Even in winter. Okay. You do it. It's even more effective, but it should be easier now in the summer, obviously. Yeah. So how more in winter, coming from your warm blankets, I can exactly. But what I do, I cheat because before I do my shower, I do a little bit of a 10 minutes exercise. Okay. So then it warms up the body. Yeah. Because in engineering we call it the delta. Okay. The difference in temperature even more effective. Excellent. That's why some people jump into cold baths or cold plunges, as they call it. But I wanted to just say the cold showers, just 1 to 2 minutes. And like I said before, I've been doing it for 3 years practicing because it is not easy, and I accept that. But it's called a process of hormetic stress. It's hormesis in the medical language. And what it does is when you stress your body, it tends to produce juices like dopamine, which help you to go into a good mood. It also helps with more endorphin, which helps you with your immune system. You know, that's why people who do sports, they will grab to attend to inflammation, they will grab ice and stuff like that. So it's a very well-practiced thing in life, even from many, many years ago. So yeah, so that's very cheap. A cold shower in the morning as a healthy, please try it. And you can talk to us whether it's working for you. Great stuff. Now coming to you, Balopi, with the history of politics, history of business, I mean, it's definitely not easy. How do you keep your body and your tempo going?
Yes, you know, when you started talking about shower, cold shower, I just, for a second, I was thinking of that Zapiro guy, you know, the cartoonist in South Africa.
Yes, in South Africa.
The one who was tormenting somebody with that shower thing. Yeah.
With the shower head.
So I was thinking, okay. But only to realize that it's a different type of cold shower. Yes, you know, the world of politics, business, family, and all other social, interactions is quite very hectic. Yeah, so I have always been, for my entire life, I've always been a sports person. But at some point, there was a challenge because I then became very, very busy. I think later on I'll talk about when that was. Yeah, so I used to do my solo runs, go to gym, cycle.
So you've been doing this for a very long time?
I've been doing this thing for a very, very long time because I thought, I don't know how people survive without doing any form of exercise and cope, you know. Especially those who get up in the morning, go to work. There are many challenges, or do, go and, interact with whatever activities of the day. So you have to actually have something to do to just wake up your body, instill
mentally and physically,
sense of, like you said, this shower thing, you are using medical terms and engineering terms, what it does to your body. You can just all of a sudden find yourself, whistling in the morning.
Exactly,
happy,
a bit more life.
Just a bit of life. So when you get to work, already you are alive and you can just move on. There's no downtime, So eventually, because I thought I keep on having this breaks while I do it alone, I decided to join a club.
Oh, nice.
A running club. There's a running club here called Striders.
Striders. There's riders and striders.
This one is Striders.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a running club. No. But for me, there's no competition because these clubs, they run together most of the time.
Okay. Yeah.
They do activations together. And I think it's very exciting because I think the medical aids and the insurance companies will be very excited.
Should be sponsoring it. Should be sponsoring the activities.
Of course they are.
Absolutely.
Most of the time they do.
Okay.
You'll have the Botswana Life marathons. Like this past 10 by 10, one of the main sponsors was Pula Medical Aid. Because they benefit.
Yeah, they benefit.
Less claims and all that. So I ran marathons, half marathons. I just did my maiden 42.2 in Cape Town, the Sunland Marathon.
What's the first one?
Yes, the maiden one.
Well
42.
Well done, buddy.
Yes.
42
So,
at your age.
42.2.
You're not a young man anymore.
No.
Hey, no, that's what
Yes, they should know. And I did very well. 21, I've done many, half marathons. I've done, 35Ks just running easy runs, be it at Poloko or many other engagements. This past weekend, actually on Saturday, we just ended. It's a Striders initiative. Which actually it invites people. Actually, a lot of people enroll from all over the world. Yeah, Africa and beyond Africa. And people who are not necessarily avid runners or members of Striders. They enrolled. I think this time they had over 1,700 people who registered to run this 10 by 10. It's 10 kilometers every day for 10 days. And you don't take a break. You don't do 5 in the morning or 5 in the evening.
You have to do it continuously.
You have to
Otherwise,
do it
it doesn't
then. So there's and
because it's online. It's online. You can be in Japan. You can be in the States.
Anywhere.
Wonderful.
Yeah. For instance, I started, and one weekend we had a wedding in Ramotswa. So I had to go to Ramotsa. So I had to run in Ramotsa alone because I couldn't take a break. And then I had to go to Lesotho.
To Lesotho, you told me.
Yes, to complete. And I completed the last 2 days in Lesotho. So
those
different terrain.
Yeah.
You have to be committed. So that's what gets me going.
That's what keeps you going.
That's what keeps me going. That's what excites me all the time. If I don't run, I feel a bit sick and low. But I think I'll encourage people to do that because, look, with the current underlying, conditions and what people do have, they should do something just to test their bodies and their strength and all that. So that's what I do to get myself going.
Yeah, we're impressed, dude.
Yes.
I'm going to keep calling you. I keep calling
you. Definitely.
Yes. I know.
No, there's nothing. First you are human before we are anything else.
Anything out
That's
there.
why when people are supposed to now come back from where they went.
Yes.
So you should keep it that way.
So the next thing is outside your decorated resume, who's Mpho Balopi in terms of where you come from, father, who are you?
Yes. I tell people that my father is from Tonota.
Okay.
Tonota village. Tonota village, I think you know where Tonota is.
Yeah. Just downtown from Francistown.
Yes. And my father got married to a very beautiful woman from Luhurutsi. Hopani. Kwaramuswete in Luhurutsi.
Yes.
Bomuswete Wataukubong.
Okay.
They are one family that side. Hapopaniha. Luhurutsi. Yes, that's why you know very well that my mother knew your mother.
I know,
very good friends. And I think they were calling each other Kazi. So I don't know, maybe, I don't know. We'll have to investigate, check this thing, a lot more. Exactly. So, and then my father worked in Lobatse. When I was born, where we were staying in Lobatse. My father was working there in Lobatse. I don't know whether, I never really asked him because I think he worked in Lobatse before he got married, yes. So, Lobatse and Hopani, it's about less than 35 kilometers. So I suspect that's what...
Yeah, that's what happened.
That's what happened.
Yes.
That's what happened. So, and then I was born in Ramotsa Hospital. My mom will say that I was born in Ramotsa. But we are not staying there. Then.
We were still
in Lobatse.
Yeah.
And then my father went to Kanye to work there. And then while we were at Kanye, he started building a home, a family home in Ramotsa.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So then we went to Ramotsa, only to find that we have relatives in Ramotsa.
Yes, from the mother side, because
from the mother side, even Gokosing and all that, extended family. Yes. So it just became our home.
The home, yeah.
Yeah, so Akere Mosanare, Muswala meaning where really you are comfortable and you find peace. That's where then you can call it home.
Become a home, yes.
Yeah, so Ramotsa then became our home. So I started my primary days in Ramotsa St. Conrad's Mission School, then Kaksusene School, tertiary, just like that. And then my grandmother is from Hotshosa in Sorowe. So you can see another connection from Tonota than Hotshosa.
Okay.
And then that's why I have the connection near Hotshosa.
Sorowe.
Yes.
On your father's side?
Yeah, on my father's side.
Okay.
And then then I decided to get married. Fast forward. Getting married, I married a beautiful woman called Chiza.
They're all beautiful, eh? The women in your house.
Actually, everyone is beautiful. Yeah. All people, the rest of the world. I always look at people and say, everyone is beautiful in their own way.
That's correct.
The only thing that I cannot talk to in terms of beauty or not being beautiful is animals. But people are beautiful. It depends on how you interpret it. But my wife is beautiful, real beautiful. So, so then she's from Butali.
Yeah.
Butali village. She's near Butali.
Oh, Nkwasha Gabe.
Yes, I am. So, and then, and you know how beautiful it is to be Nkwasha. You are respected.
They treat them, yeah.
And then my wife's mother is from Mapok.
Okay. So you can see that I cut right across. We stayed in Kanye, Lobatse, Ramotswa, Serowe, Tonota, Vitali, Mapoka, and all that. So it's like, that's why everyone in this country is somehow connected to me in one or the other. That's why it was a lot easier for me to really find a space, in politics.
Correct.
Besides, I love people. I love just interacting with people. I love talking to people. And, it makes me feel good to just say hello to a person, greet somebody in the morning. You go to filling station or shops, you just give a tip or something. That makes me feel so good. So this is who I am.
Wonderful.
Yeah, besides, the other things that you...
On the career side? Just highlights.
Yeah, career side, I my first job was in a bank. Started Chartered Bank. Then I went to Cresta group of hotels. And then within a short space of time, I started to run my own business. I don't think my working career is more than 6-7 years.
Okay, and the entrepreneurial bug
just hit me at a very early age.
Yeah.
So I've been in business for more than 25 years almost.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm doing this and that. And I established a very good business called Native Group of Companies. Which started off with Native, impressions as an advertising and marketing communications agency. And later on, your outdoor, your media company, your PR company, the firm, and all that. So I then became very comfortable in that space.
Okay.
And while there, obviously, I interacted with other business people. I became a member of the Booking Board.
Okay, that time.
Business Botswana now, for almost 8 years.
Okay.
Of which the 4 years I was the chairperson of the media sector.
Oh, nice.
In the country. Nice. Then at some point, I was treasurer of Botswana Council of Churches. Imagine. And then talking about politicians and churches and money. And money and churches. So as a treasurer, I was the only one in that board of Botswana Council of Churches who was not a pastor or an ordained priest or whatever. I was not a clergyman. And I was the only one who was not. And I thought maybe I am and I'm not aware.
Exactly. Maybe so deep
how
down,
can this clergyman trust a person who is not necessarily a lay person? And one of my highlights also in my career, it's when I was nominated by Business Botswana to represent the private sector in the formulation of the country's human development strategy.
Okay.
Which actually gave birth to HRDC. So it was a project...
around 2002 or so.
Yes, around 2002,
yes.
And I think you one of the people who
we were consulted, I think.
Consulted,
yes.
We
you
did.
Remember that.
We did. We consulted you. So that was a very huge thing because, the human resource development strategy, the way it was formulated, is something that I strongly believe that if it can be implemented the way it was formulated, this country will be very far.
It was lots of other policies.
Many things. So I don't know where it went. It was financed by the World Bank in conjunction with the Minister of Finance here and all that. And the other thing that I'm very proud of is having been part of the task force that developed the Vision 2036.
Oh, yes.
I was part of the team that developed the vision for the country. Chaired by Remo Roka. Yes, indeed. So, the interactions with Botswana when they were shaping their own vision, there were three basic questions. And I think these questions should be the questions that from time to time when you want to do something for people or with people, you should ask. One, it was, what kind of Botswana do you want to see by the year 2036?
Beautiful.
And who has to do what you want to see? Who should be responsible for what you want to see in 2036? And the third question was, for that to be achieved, what should be done?
What should be done? Around the execution matter.
Around the execution matter. Making it real. So Botswana were very clear what they want. Much as others were saying, they want to see a country that looks like Jerusalem. I mean, others might not have seen other areas, Jerusalem. But Jerusalem, the way it sounds from a Christian point of view, you can see it was the land of, it was the land of what? Peace, tranquility, and people were very comfortable to live in Jerusalem from a biblical point of view. So you can imagine how then we allowed Botswana to shape how they want to see. But the question then is whether, like I said, with the HRDC, the strategy, the vision, if it can be followed and be responsive to what Botswana wanted to see. I can imagine where we will be and where by 2036 we'll be.
You are part of the system. I'm going to ask you to account later on.
Yes, I will, definitely. Yes. So, yeah, that's, I think...
And then the political thing, where did it kick in?
You know, I think I've always been a politician. Anyone...
Like Aristotle, we are, by nature, we are all politicians.
We are all
I mean, this thing,
no. We're all... Even everyone
all these
is
guys,
a politician. All these guys.
Absolutely.
And you, actually, you are a very serious politician. It is.
Yes.
I think from my young age, as a young boy, people that I played with, when I became a known politician and I became very active. In the mainstream politics, they were all saying, we've always known that that's where you're going to end.
One time.
Because they say, you know, among all of us, you are the naughty one, you are the inquisitive one, you are the talkative one. You always wanted to make people laugh. And you always wanted to be seen where there are many people. You know, you always want crowds at school and everywhere. And you are a troublemaker, you know, at school. Not that politicians are troublemakers.
I'm with you.
Yeah, so, and you remember that as you were growing up, our grandmothers or even our parents will keep on saying, when you are talkative, or when you do certain things and you're always with people addressing them, you're the only one talking maybe. At one point, they will always say, hey, why don't you know politics? So, not that I believe that but it's also a very good trait. Because that means that you engage people. You want to pick people's brains out, learn how to articulate, you know, and all that. And I used to like sitting around, even elderly people, you know. Because I was saying, you know, Paul, but just listening to how, that's why I love Setswana. I'm very comfortable with Setswana and very deep Setswana.
Yes, I've seen
and that's what, if this interview was in Setswana, I will enjoy it a lot better. You know, I strongly believe that Setswana se monate. Ebile se khona hore se khona ho twa ke to gama khomo. Le gone e sa tswang ho tsala o nwa khansela ha o se bua. So it's very important that all these things, actually, they're very good attributes about me. So it was very easy for me because I could address different audiences in different ways. And I actually was very, very keen to learn language, even the basics, greeting, you know, in Kalanga, in Sobea, in Herero, in all these things. So I always, because I was interactive, the first thing that I want to know is how do you greet
in a language. And it gives a spark in people.
Yes,
I mean, when I go to Zambia and I talk to a Bemba or whatever, you can see the guys just cheer. But not even that when Mpho. Even in Botswana, I mean, I go to a restaurant.
Yes.
How can I be of help? Like, hey, and then somebody's like, you can see this waitress as a bride. They brighten up. Because you are yourself.
Exactly.
It's natural. It's a natural.
Exactly. But Hella, I think in a nutshell, that's who I am. Of course, I've done...
And the first positions as on the political structures, what was...
I started my political... Of course, I voted for the first time in 1989.
Okay.
For the first time.
Yeah.
Because I attended... I was 20. Yes.
20 at the time,
yes. Not that I should be judged. I'm young, very young.
No.
So, and then... I grew up around politics, so to speak. So in 1996, I think that's when I became very, very active in, you know, structures like in Ramoswa, your wards, and other, structures of the party at a low level. But 96, when Rakhawane was the president, his last 2 years, I was appointed in one of the subcommittees of the Central Committee.
Really? That young?
Yeah, very young. I was a very young man. I mean, I've started this thing very young. Of course, there were those that were,
young also from their days from GS26 and
yes,
all that,
yes, from
who were
UB.
already
Yes.
they're very active and all that, because political activism during those years
I remember BNF and G26 UB, the mass movement, they were very
so
hot.
a lot of guys who then were there during that time were the guys who were products of such structures from the UB. But then come 1998, Ramogai became the president. So the constitution of the BDP gives the powers to the president to appoint people in the subcommittees, of course, in consultation with members of the Central Committee and all that. So I was appointed again to the same committee for 10 years. Continued during Ramogai's time. I was serving there. So when the fourth president of this country took office, Rakama, he appointed me to, and within 1.5 years, I became the Secretary General of the BDP. So I served him for almost 8.5 years as his Secretary General, which is...
Time passes. When I look back, it looks like it was quite quick, but now when you count the years, that's quite a bit.
Very, It passes so quickly. So you remember that at that time when I became Secretary General, it was a time when BDP has just given birth to its first offspring, called the BMD. Because of the political turmoil within the the party. So all the guys, my cohort, all the guys who were the cream de la cream of the BDP, the vibrant young ones who were to take over in future, who I was working with, and I was always very clear to them, the likes of Bomozwaledi, may his soul rest in peace, and many others, your Ndabas, who's currently the Vice President, Botswana, and Baramidi, and Odi, many guys, When they left, I thought, wow, these were my friends. And I thought, hey, but I've always thought BDP and me is like,
hand in glove.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying, hand in glove, and it's part of my DNA. So I felt it. It was very awkward for me to now go elsewhere at the time. So I remained.
But you did introspect. You were shaken. The system was checked.
No, definitely. Yeah. Because I remember I used to find it very difficult to even drive around, going to political rallies, BDP political rallies, and without these guys, because I would see them on the way. There would be a group of them excited to be going elsewhere. Me, I'll be alone, or maybe one or two
isolated.
Isolated. But I said, ultimately, this might just be a calling. Let me just
hang on,
and take them on.
Because now they're on the other side.
Now they're on the other side. We remain friends, because that's the beauty about Botswana politics. Become friends. We don't lose that. But at the same time, when it gets to what we then are fighting for, everybody will take their position and they'll take their side. So that's what happened. And then we had a compromise Congress, because after the formation of the BMD, Khama felt that we cannot have another 2009 Congress. In Kanye where
the stuff happened.
The stuff happened. You know what happened. So that's when I was brought in as an additional member of the Central Committee. And then 30 days later, the one who was appointed as SG left the party also. So I then became the Secretary General. And this is how I became the Secretary General. Went to a Central Committee meeting because it was after the Congress. Then the president said, Ghana, we have to now, because the Secretary General is not here. As you know, he has resigned from the party and the Central Committee, obviously. We needed an SG.
Somebody SG, yes. Just for even for the meetings.
The deputy SG. The deputy SG was the lady called Malebo Kruger. Kruger from Robatse. So one would have thought, the one who is a deputy is a natural. But the very Makrugers then nominated my name with others to say, no, the SG is this one. And I was only 30 days in the Central Committee. Of course, I've been in the party.
Yes.
And we were 17 then, because the Central Committee is an 18-member committee. We were 17. So then the president asked whether there's another nomination, another person who can. Nobody did. So 17 out of 17 nominated my name, and I became Secretary General, because that's the process of the Constitution. Correct. If that vacancy exists in the committee. And then immediately after, the president said, no, we need to now replace this guy because he was an additional member. How do we replace him? Any names? Everybody's hand was up. They called different names. Now there was
an election, a secret ballot.
Yeah.
That was conducted by me immediately. And guess what?
Yeah.
The people that I'll say the two groups, because there were different views. Others wanted this one, others wanted
another one. Yeah.
The outcome was 9-8.
Wow, that was tight.
Very, very. And I was
tight.
so humbled that to say, all these people, the likes of Borre Kwalahobi, Borre Merafi, Borre Kitikile, Mr. Dada, Manuel Rekama, and all, a lot of them, they all have confidence in me. That thing humbled me.
Yeah.
To say, how can I be, preferred by all the 17 people?
The people that have been in the game for so long.
For so long.
What do
to
they
take
see?
the third most important position. In actual fact, the most important position, because the Secretary General is the melting pot
of
a political party. And I said, okay, I prayed God because I'm a Christian too. And I believe very much in prayer and being humbled by situations, not being, I always believe that you need to humble yourself as a person.
You got to work on your
ego.
Work on your ego.
Yes, and if it's ahead of you, you'll start asking people questions of, do you know who I am? You don't even know yourself. You lose yourself, you know what I'm saying? So I was humbled. Then I started taking up my position as the SG. And I faced a very hostile opposition, including my former friends in politics and all that. But we worked very hard. We put together a very good team. I managed to galvanize the youth and those that remained to be able to see the importance of making sure that we continue.
This is now going towards the
2014 elections.
Yes.
But before then, remember before 2009 election, opposition has never worked together anywhere.
Yes.
Even during the days of Borrakoma, where Ramatante, it was always
talking about a front, which is supposed to be the principle of working together.
But it never worked. The first time we started working together, I think it was, if I'm not mistaken, it was during Baliza Hawalate's by-election where Fidelis came into becoming a member of parliament. And then the one that was very vicious, which was after the formation of BMD, was the Mokobokane by-election. It was a by-election.
Yeah,
in the ward. But they wanted to test that. It took 3 weeks.
The model, to test the model.
The model. Yes. They all went there. You can imagine the likes of the DGB, the Ndabas, the Motswa ladies, the Botsalos,
all together,
all together. And I'm there. I'm on the other side. So I had to move. I had to go there 3 weeks before the by-election, even though I was going there from time to time. And I made it a point that I worked very hard because in my heart of hearts, I was saying, we need to win this one. And if I win it, I would have shown these guys that now you know. Now you can see what you know where the you know who is the man.
Yeah, where the game is.
Where the game is. Yeah. So it was very hard. And when they came on Friday, arrived on Friday, it was. Now I got a bit worried because
on the eve of the elections.
On the eve of the elections.
Yes.
I saw all these guys. I said, no, we are now gone. And I said, never. There was one bar in Mokoboka. And I knew that is going to be a place where everybody is going to converge. Guess what I did?
You went to the bar?
I went to the bar and bought all the drinks in the bar, everything that was in the bar. And I was given the key by the bar person.
Well, of course.
So anyone who wanted a drink had to come through me and my guys. So even the opposition were now begging. That was where I started weakening them because they were just too strong on that evening. And the next day, fast forward, even though a number of other things happened in terms of aggressive campaigning and all that, with other Democrats and all that, but the most important thing, when you are leading and you are having a position of authority and you are able to bring people together to see your vision in terms of how you want to do it. That's one thing that I really appreciated by the Democrats who were there at that time. Everybody was hands-on. You could see everybody's focused. And we won that by-election by 9 votes.
It was that tight.
Very tight. And then they intensified towards 2014. So I was still SG then. We won. Much as we were below 47%.
Yes.
But we won.
Yeah, you crossed the Rubicon.
We are far much ahead of the current, popular votes.
Yes.
Yeah, but we won. And then 2019, the same thing.
Another auspice with you being the SG.
Yes,
at
again,
the time,
all this time that I'm talking about, I was the SG.
The SG,
Yeah, but I'm very proud of how I worked with Democrats and those who were very influential in their respective regions and was to make sure that we remain relevant amidst all these coalitions and all that. As you're talking now, 2024, you know what happened?
It's a different story.
Yeah.
It's a different story.
I wouldn't want to say, as I was not Secretary General, but I strongly believe that we did not have all our hands on deck. I strongly believe that we did not unleash our potential as the BDP to an extent where we could have suffered. And many other things that me and you and others are citing on a daily basis that could have costed us to not achieve. Yeah. But I'm very proud of the contributions that I've made with others, of course, to ensure that...
you are saying that there were certain things that led to the loss and But the question that the viewer must be asking is, where were you?
Yes, in politics, one thing that you have to understand, you have to be able to read politics and read them very well. There's this word called factions in politics, where there are groupings who fundamentally might have very fundamental differences within the party.
Correct.
But the factions existed in the BDP in the past. We had the small two and the big five.
Yes, the big five.
Eventually, we had the Barata Party and the A-Team.
The A-Team.
And
remember
all
that.
But it was always factions that were speaking to issues of, agreeing that, yes, the BDP is the BDP, but there has to be an approach that we follow to achieve certain things.
There was a certain level of consensus, even if there were differences.
There were differences, but there was coherent somewhere. Somewhere. You'll converge.
Yeah, somewhere.
To say, no,
to deliver
the party into power and all that. But you'll be having as to who can do it better than the other, and maybe the consultative processes and the engagements, how do we do it democratically? Do we give people enough room and enough opportunity to actually express themselves and contribute? Because remember, democracy, as they say, is the government of the people, by the people, for the people. It's all about people. So people then start complaining that, no, we are not having enough time maybe to engage and to say the kind of things that can help us as a political movement to say, look, this is where we should go. This is how we are going to do things and whatever. You might find that now it's like there's less opportunity for people to express themselves as they should in a democratic dispensation. So those were some of the differences that people were saying played out. And it never really got to a point where there was mischief in terms of despise or not tolerating others, or even to an extent of hating others, because how can you hate each other when you're in one political party and you understand? So some of the issues, people felt there was that. When we have a dissenting voice, or maybe you say something that is not necessarily, it doesn't resonate with
the main line. With the main line. Yes.
If you don't toe the line, then you are a bad person, which is something that I strongly don't believe. And I don't believe. I believe that democracy has to be at play at all material times. People should be given an opportunity to say that which, even if you don't agree with them. That's why Botswana re akhuta mantot. Akere. Muale ba ba bua la ga monalente atswela gago. It's very important. You understand? That's what democracy does. And I'm very happy that increasingly I see that developing in our country. And one of the things that I forgot to mention as I was Secretary General was the importance of collaborating with other political parties in the region and beyond. BDP had never been a member of there's an establishment called Socialist International. It's an organization of like-minded parties who practice who are socialist democrats.
Correct.
Yes. Okay. So it's an organization that tries to preserve that ideology, that thinking, and help the sister parties globally to keep it going. And when they have challenges, they could actually, even from a training point of view, collaborate to ensure that they continue to practice that which they all believe in. So I, as a Secretary General in 2014, I managed to enroll BDP in that organization as an observer at that particular time. And BNF was their thing because they believed that, and one of the key
from
things,
a socialist point
from
of view,
a socialist point of
Democrats,
view, BNF was there, but then they became part of the coalition. So one of the fundamental principles about Socialist International is that you should not be a coalition. You should be a single-minded party.
Really?
Believing in one thing.
Okay. Oh, you can't be a concoction of ideas.
You cannot be a concoction of ideas and still... Because it will be very difficult for them to advise you and guide you because they don't know where to start.
Yes, because it comes from an ideological grounding.
Exactly. So now that's what happened. I'm very proud that we did that, joined that into this. I don't know. Hopefully we're still, in that path. And also the African National Congress before. But
why are you mentioning? Are you mentioning it because it did not continue to be as solid as it was before?
Was supposed to be.
So that's the point.
Yeah, because then there was exchange, even in terms of training, even in terms of support, even in terms of many other things.
And solidarity.
Solidarity, exactly.
That's the solidarity.
Solidarity is very important. That's why liberation movements,
it gives energy.
A lot of it. And then just to know that we have people that you can talk to, people that you can call friends within the political space and all that. Even African National Congress, for the longest time, you didn't have a very solid relationship. And during my tenure as Secretary General, you've seen Gwede Mantashe coming to Botswana more than once, addressing a joint Congress with me.
I think Petrus Motsepe also
participated in our things and all those things. And it's something that we want to continue because it's very important to be conscious of especially trade partners or maybe people we share borders with, like South Africa, with a huge population and a huge array of products that we may not necessarily by now produce. It's very important that we maintain those relationships. Your Zimbabwe, ZANU-PF, your SWAPO, your NPLA in Angola, your Chama Chependuze in Tanzania, and Frelimo in Mozambique, and all those things. Those relationships are very critical because if you think about it, Botswana was a junction during the hardest times of the region.
As an unaligned movement.
Member. Yes, you remember that.
I remember that, yeah.
So obviously, if you look at the first presidents of independent, whether it's Africa or Mozambique, they all stayed here in one or the other, or passed through here. Be it Mandela,
Samara
Machel, be it Mugabe.
Even the Shopo guys, I understand. Francistown
at the White House. Be it, even the late Gaingob, he did mention at some point that he should stay in Francistown at some point, and many others, all of them. So Botswana was basically facilitating the ultimate freedoms of all these countries during those times. And you can ask yourself, we are a small country, small economy, we took that risk of ensuring that even though there were forces around us against the black movements in their respective countries, how did Botswana take that risk? And this is one thing that we should applaud and appreciate our leadership,
and the role they played at the time.
And our chiefs. I always say, I don't know how and when I'll stop thanking our chiefs in Botswana, the role they played during the pre-independence era, from 1865 and those years when people said they were going to ask for independence. No, it was for protection initially, and then eventually independence came, isn't it? So you would appreciate the role, and it was because of who we are as Botswana. The setting, we are people they are a bit subtle in the way you are not aggressive and all that. So it was very easy for us to facilitate such. And
we are seen to be like that by the outside world.
Yes, you are seen to be like that by the outside world.
Yeah. But in summary, you are saying that the history of Botswana and then the collaboration with sister brotherly organizations, that's something that, as a political party, whether BDP or not, is something that really supports the movement, makes it more effective. I wanted to ask you something
very important,
which we are, as observers, we are obviously wondering for you. When you are the minister, you were appointed minister at some stage, and obviously member of parliament for Gaborone North from 2019, was it 2019 when you won the constituency, and you became and then you were appointed as minister, and then thereafter You left as
Yes,
minister,
yes.
and you became a backbencher.
Yes.
There were obviously murmurings. And I just wanted to, I mean, we, some of us who are not politicians, we feel for you guys, whether it's opposition or that, because, and this is what we're going to talk about, is the tumultuous or the terrain of a politician, because I'm looking at young people who want to be going to politics,
Yes.
even older people, to say, what am I up against? So are you prepared to just share that period to say, what the hell was going on in your head, in your heart?
You know, in hindsight, I always think that maybe I should have started my career as counselor. In hindsight, I always think maybe if I thought about this thing a long time ago, and maybe started off as a counselor and being closer to people.
Yeah.
You know, the day-to-day, needs and requirements of the people, their interactions, how we can help them, how we can service them as politicians. Because look, politicians, whether you like it or not, they control your life.
Yeah.
Every day.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
Even what you eat.
Everything.
Where we don't even have tomatoes.
And where you buy it.
Yeah, not true.
Yeah. They control your life completely. So you should never undermine and think that politicians are politicians and you are not a politician. I know when you started, you talked about that. We are all politicians. You might have a brilliant idea that can turn around, your fortunes or even for the country. And all of a sudden, the policies that we come up with and the laws that we enact as parliament might defeat that which you have worked hard.
Absolutely.
Then it just counts for nothing. So I'm saying this, I should have started there because I realized that when I was campaigning for parliament, I realized that, people have so much hope in me, a lot of it. And yes, and I felt in Gaborone North, for instance, and I take it that other parts of Gaborone, it's you understand? You've got many different people from different backgrounds, different walks of life, different nationalities.
Low-income areas, Pakalan in there.
High, middle class, white collar,
blue collar, everything.
Local, blue collar, everything. We have it. But you need to balance that, you understand? And when you get to government, you realize that our parliament, for instance, actually our system, even though we have separation of power, it's not totally separated, so to speak. Parliament is not independent. For you to be a minister, you have to be a member of parliament.
Yeah.
But in essence, legislature should be another arm of government.
Correct.
And then the executive and then the judiciary.
On one hand.
So you can imagine when you come in as a member of parliament, you are in the legislature. And then all of a sudden, then you are in the executive.
I got you.
So when you're in the executive, you are not able to speak and even bring in questions and even from the constituents or even bring in motions that will address,
that will speak directly to
the constituents. You now have to respond to those who are asking questions. So it means you are not going to represent those
as
people
effective as you would love to.
As effective as you would love to.
Yeah.
It's either you give somebody else the question on behalf of your constituents because you're a minister and all that. So I felt that I would not have learned much and actually represented those that voted for me adequately in parliament if I continue to be minister. Of course, it comes with a pack.
Of course, the black card, dude.
The black card. And a flag.
Exactly.
And the saluting all over.
Yes.
But I thought, you know what, look, after observing that, I said, no. I have given a bit of time to the executive. And I was very proud of what I did in the 2 years that I was at the Ministry of Labor and Employment and Labor, Productivity and Employment. And I take it that they are there to testify that because from a structural point of view and from motivating people and making sure that they function and they are responsive to the services that we make. Our profit is people's happiness.
Absolutely.
People say government doesn't make profit. You make profit. Our profit is ensuring that people are happy that you are servicing.
People are happy. That's what
the
government's purpose is to make people happy. And
so I was very happy that I managed to contribute in my little way when I was there. And the working relation improved. And I said, okay, fine. What else? And I said, now I have to go and serve those that sent me here. That's why I felt it was important and critical to step down. Of course, there were other underlying issues that I felt
Because I was going to ask you, do you really want us to believe that that's how magnanimous you are?
No, believe you me.
It was.
It was. I'm one person.
That's the primary driver.
Anyone who knows me genuinely, from way back to now, they know that when it comes to people, everywhere, they'll tell you, Hori, I'm telling the truth.
I got you.
Yeah, I just, if there's a bereavement or something has happened or there's a wedding or there's a problem in any school. Remember, I adopted all the primary schools, 6 primary schools and 2 junior secondary schools and 1 senior secondary school. I adopted all of them. Yes.
Wow.
Around North. And I changed the lives of many children.
Okay.
I remember one incident that is very close to my... Actually, we'll read more in my book. Once I write it.
Yeah.
There was a time that the entire home economics class failed exams at Motswedi Junior Secondary School.
Yes, yeah.
And it was on account of their ovens not working. All of them.
Oh.
And there was no way. I mean, the ovens are not working. And you are baking. And all of a sudden, they misbehave and your cake collapse or your scones collapse. And then you are marked 0.
Yeah.
You know what? I took it upon myself. That was even before I became a member of parliament.
Okay.
I took it upon myself to buy them 6 stoves and ovens. And every time I interact with a lot of parents and kids, they always say, Balopi, you never forget that day when you brought those stoves and you passed and you changed life. Our kids passed. And, those are the things that as people, we don't have to, and I don't like the media. You might not have seen
I've never read about it.
Yes,
I haven't
because I don't like the media. We don't give for the media. We give from the bottom of our heart.
Absolutely.
I'm saying this thing because I just want to justify why I'm saying
this was a genuine call.
It was a genuine call
to say a nice time to serve. And then you said there were other dynamics?
Yeah, the other dynamics were that, look, we as an executive were told that you cannot run your business when you're a member of executive. So you resigned as an executive director. So, but as a member of parliament, you can run.
Oh, you can carry on with your business.
You can carry on with your business. Okay. So I thought it was another balance because it's the very business that can help me, in assisting
the constituents,
and all that. Not the salary from members from the office because it was very, very, it's not adequate, as you know. At times, it's never enough, but at times it's not adequate.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, so at the end of the day, those are some of the things that I felt I assisted my constituents with. And Gaborone North, for instance, farms. Government policy in terms of developments is that there's one policy that is very, very important for people to understand. Government only takes developments or they plan for developments where they have allocated land.
I know where you're going. Gaborone North.
Yes.
I know.
So when it's
been a chaotic place for many years. And some of us were just wondering, why are you making a big deal out of this?
Just but it's a policy, it's a government. And one of the things that I did with the then Minister of Lands and Water Affairs, Ramuzunila, he even appreciated, even in Parliament, my aggression was to say, let's change the policy.
Yeah, let's change the law. You guys are there for that purpose.
Let's change it such that you are able to what? To now help people who are working, contributing to the well-being of this country economically, people who are paying tax and rates.
And they build houses there.
And the beautiful houses.
Yeah.
So when they buy cars, they can't even enjoy cars for
stormwater drainage,
if there's
housing
a wish,
water.
And when I was campaigning there, I told them that, look, I'm not going to lie to you. You're not going to get developments on the basis of me saying I'm going to bring roads here. And this is a problem with politicians.
Yeah,
we have to be very honest. Yeah. We overpromise. I said, they are fundamentals. The first thing is, let's go step by step. You don't even have a ward committee here, which is a baseline in terms of
governance structures.
Yeah, it's a baseline in terms of governance structure. You don't have it. Let's do it. Let's have it. And together with the councillor of the ward at that time, we managed to influence the council to ensure that there's a ward committee there, which I'm very proud that is one thing that I left there. It's a structure that can help in this development. And once government allows that to happen, it means then they're in the right direction in terms of now bringing things up. So it's being a politician and representing people is something that you have to, but I couldn't really maintain and do what I really wanted to do before I left politics. In the executive.
So that's what drove you to decide the big decision. It was a big decision.
Of course, there are many conspiracy theories.
They will always be. So let's come to And we've touched a little bit on it. And I remember, I don't know when you said this, but you're talking about servant leadership.
Yes.
And I'm mentioning this because, as we talk about constituents and electorates and all that, we look up to you guys to make a difference to the country. Now, what is the quality of an effective politician with all this experience that you've got? I'm sure you've seen pockets of it. And I'm saying this because for me, it is the gateway to progress. And we'll talk later about how we feel because of political leadership, whether Botswana is actually, broken that ceiling in terms of the next step of development. So, but in terms of the characteristics, there's debate about one has to have gone to school. You've talked about servant leadership. How would you package it and now looking at even further leadership in the political space?
Look, I think the most fundamental thing about anyone who wants to lead people, you call yourself a politician or if you want to take up public office and take up a responsibility that will be, focusing on assisting and developing the lives and the livelihoods of people. The first thing there is that you have to be God-fearing. That's the first thing. If you are God-fearing, then it's a compass that is going to control how you think.
It's your true north.
Yes, it's my true north. Definitely. It's going to be anything and everything that you want to do. It's going to be directing you to the right place. The one thing is that when you're a politician, once you have that, it actually even enhances your morals, your values. It's a seto, it's a boto, it's a the 10 Commandments. Exactly. All those things. So once we have that, is the beginning of wisdom as a politician. Because when you see people, you'll know these people, they genuinely believe that I can go and represent them and represent their interests. I'm not going there to steal from them, but rather to think of ways to enhance their lives and their livelihoods.
Do we have lots of those?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I don't think so. And I'm not perfect.
No.
I'm not perfect, but I'm trying to say here, for me, you remember, I went further and said, I'm not going to stand again in the thing. Because at times, where you don't have total control, and you cannot influence policy on your own, or maybe your position has to be backed up by other positions for it to be solidified, and can call it the right position. It's a collective. It's a, and again, there's what you call collective responsibility and all that. Even if it's something that you have to say, I like it because it's a collective responsibility. You caucus on issues, and then we have to agree on those issues. And you cannot go out there and say, hey, we talked about this thing, but I did not agree. But fundamentally, you can imagine if we have a bunch of people, the majority of people have that a moral high ground. And they believe that people first, they can greet. They can just greeting, because greeting is very important. I always say to people when I explain to them, anyway, even in Lesotho this past weekend, I was saying to somebody, he was saying to me, so in Setswana, Dumelang, when you say Dumelang, what's the significance of Dumelang? I said, you know what? I think Botswana is the only country where you want somebody to agree with you without knowing what they're agreeing with as you meet them. And they'll respond by saying, Lekai or Dumela Ralwe or whatever. It's a very solid, I think we need to unpack that. And I wish it was our country's brand. Just the logo say Dumela.
And there's a deeper version of it in terms of Dumela. Apart from agreeing, it's actually acknowledging the being.
The being. Acknowledging the being. Yes.
Which is very, very powerful.
Acknowledging the being. That's a very profound one. And you're just acknowledging the being. And if somebody keeps quiet when you say that, it has the most. And if they agree and you say Melekai, because they can see you are acknowledging the being. They can say, you are checking on them now. You understand? They might say, oh.
The human connection.
They might say, oh, Yeah, Balopi re teng. Hey, mehara tsoga. Megareo, you know, re teng megareo. Ese se rolong sa galo. Re teng megareo, you know. And then you get to pick the challenges that you might not have known if you were for you not to think, to have acknowledged the being. You understand? Without having Dumela, you'll never know much. And again, the other very important thing about a politician, much as I said, everybody is a politician. People always say, "Mpho, we run more politics. You don't focus on business." If it's a calling, maybe it's a calling. But I'll tell you one thing. I always say, so if I go to business and I try to make a change in business, and somebody, because Moharona, if you go to the Hansard, you'll see that every presentation I used to make in Parliament, I used to say, one of the biggest problems that we have to deal with, even in our budget speech, including in our allocation, I don't know how you're going to do it, is fighting jealousy and hate, lihuha, and all those things. Those are the
pull me down syndrome,
the PhD syndrome. This thing has delayed progress in countries, and in ours in particular. You know, people who could be role models, where people Baba Jambo can relate with and be able to say, hey, how he's progressing, lead, and he's breaking barriers. You know, he's even invited in countries to make presentation. He's an international. Why don't we model his business such that those who want to be part of this industry can see that it's possible.
Correct.
And they can export their skill. No, we rather kill you. Yeah, and make sure that you don't survive. Yeah, you know. And this whole attitude of Botswana somebody being very proud of poverty. And we need to start talking about them on a daily basis as leaders, such that we change the mindset of people. And I'm he is accepting that he has to be.
He's destined for that.
He's destined for that. So politicians' roles should be, you know, ensuring that this kind of things they don't have room in our society. And one of the other things is to change people and change their lives permanently. I'll give you a model that I proposed that I'm still talking to some people about in Liduma. Okay, if you look at Pakalani, I don't know, per square meter right now, you might be looking at about 1,500 per square meter, plus minus.
The cream of Botswana,
Yes, and then extension 11. And then the extension 11s, we are looking at that also per square meter.
Around the same figure.
But if you look at Liduma, Tsohang, Solofelo, extension 27, you know, all those areas, Taung, it's like a village in the middle of the city. And you can only think about what kind of these people, they don't realize the potential as a leader. You go to them and say, hey, why don't you collaborate? If you have 400 square meters of land here and you have built a house, of course it's your house, but you are not deriving much value from it. But it's in the middle of cream. Pakalani, extension 10 and
all
everything.
Over there,
So why don't you collaborate? Maybe 20 of you, 10, 50 of you. Imagine if you are 40 in a block and you contribute 400 square meters. Is how many? 40 times 4. It's 44,000 square meters. And you look for a developer.
Exactly.
You demolish this thing, and then you contribute with your land. You don't pay anything, because then if it's 400 times 1.5,
the value is by the land.
The value is by the land.
And
then these developers, in partnership with you, develop skyscrapers, maybe 10-story buildings. And the deal is you take the bottom flat. Or any other flat of your choice. Automatically, you are in the real estate.
You are elevated, and your life is elevated.
It's gated, it's developed. And all the other 9 stories on top of your unit, where your land was, you are a 2.53% shareholder on an ongoing basis. You are in real estate business, real wealth. for the future generations and yourself.
So are you saying the politicians are not doing that type of stuff?
Politicians are not doing the stuff. I was doing it. And other politicians were saying, Balopi wants to come and take your land. This is how the problem is. Balopi wants to cheat you. He wants to bring people that and say, no.
Yes,
as a society, as a corporate.
I got you.
You'll be in control of your investment. Think about it. Think about it. I'm just giving one example. That can transform the city, transform the life of the person who currently is not deriving any benefit from being in the city. People are already staying because there's no accommodation. Whereas they would rather locals here come together and sell. And sell to somebody. And there will never be future benefit from that type of land. So politicians should be people who look at the lives of other people as the lives are currently, and see how those lives can be improved. You understand? Policy. I'll give an example. Politicians will always, if you are not going to be guided by the kind of things that I've talked about, if government changes like it has changed in Botswana,
you are in the...
I was reading somewhere that certain programs that government was running, they're going to be stopped.
Yeah.
Think about it. 2-3 months ago, you might have prepared yourself adequately and invested some money in such kind of
programs,
such that you are going to take up the program. You might have bought land, fenced it, arranged whatever for it, and all of a sudden now the program is not there. So that's a massive loss, and that's a politician's role to change without consulting you at times. So at the end of the day, I wish we could see politician as something that is fundamental, that our children should admire to be part of. They should take it as a career because it's what really makes the world tick.
Let's talk about the reality of politicians, especially the African politician.
Yes.
And I know Professor Patrick Lebumba has talked about this.
Yes.
Just as an example, I think it was last year. There was a big launch, last year or the year before. It was a big launch, one of the mines. Ministers, the president and everybody, and and obviously the big cars, everything. And then there was this, when the president gets to speak or the minister has to speak, why do we have to spend and why do you have to always reiterate the full names of people? I'm a consultant, so we do studies. I put my clock as I'm just going to test the time spent on these introductions that went forever. There was over 30 minutes of time wasted just saying the minister, their name, and then someone comes up, same thing, same sounds like, good people, is this what? That's that. The other one is, why should you, when you are leading a country that's just got poverty, people who can't put a roof over their heads, I know it's a bit crazy. Some people have argued with me about this one. What gives the servant leadership the right to drive top-of-the-range vehicle at our taxpayers' money? When you're private, you do whatever you want to do. Yeah. That's your own daba. Yeah. But what gives you right? This thing of these envoys of cars stopping people and for me it doesn't. And one time when I was at school in the UK, one young lady asked me, said, I look at the BBC News. There's always strife in Africa, poor people. And that was even after the Ethiopian famine.
Yes, your Somalia.
And you're saying, every time I see that, then the next thing they go to the politicians, they're wearing the fanciest suits with the black cars, BMWs. She said to me, it doesn't add up. Yeah. And that's when it started reflecting to me, why do we do? Even our sons like the guys who are, and we're going to talk about the maturing of a democracy.
Yes.
The guys in the UK, in Netherlands, Boris Johnson cycles. He can cycle.
Definitely.
The guys go onto the train.
Yes.
I don't know if these guys can go into the public transport, that the people who vote them, jump onto the combi. I'm just saying the perception about the African political leader and the way and the damage in terms of psychological aspect to say, okay, so if I become a politician, I'll have this big... Some of them, in terms of just preparing for elections, they spent more money than what they make in the 5 years. I'm sure you will agree with me.
Definitely.
Simply because of this power thing.
Yeah.
What
Yes.
do you say against around that type of thing?
We you know what? As guilty as charged, as a politician who's been there, who has seen it and all that. Those who know me in life, they know that I like the fine, even yourself, you know.
No, final stuff of life, and that's fine.
Yeah,
but, you work hard for it.
But I always say I've worked very hard for this kind of things. You understand?
Yeah.
However, I pray every day that you could have politicians who put the seven leadership. I always talk to you about seven leadership.
Yeah.
I find it very difficult. One guy asked me one day, a journalist, and I think he just looked at me and he shook his head. Just as I resigned from cabinet, so I didn't want to share an interview with this particular journalist on account of why I've resigned at that particular time. So he came to Parliament. As I was leaving, he said, "No, I want an interview with you, Balopi." I said, "No, man, I'm in a hurry. I'll give you an interview." Okay, let me ask you one question. Why did you resign from cabinet? Because I don't like a black BMW. You see,
said that.
It was a joke.
Yes.
I said, "No, I don't like." He looked at me, but seriously? But I've never seen you driving a BMW. I think you're a Mac person. you understand?
Yeah.
But I was just joking. But having said that, on a serious note, I always find it, and those who are very sincere and can tell you, even when I was addressing Khotla meetings, I used to say to them, you know, when you approach you as voters, as constituents, in Parliament, you want you to represent your aspirations, your interests and everything in Parliament. And when you come back, after voting for us, we come back as bosses to you.
That's exactly
we come back as bosses to you. At times we are waving from the dark, you can't even see me properly through the window. I'm waving. They say, "Hey!" Or when they're excited to see us now, we are bosses. You know, they don't hold us accountable. You understand? Instead of me greeting them, they have to greet me. Instead of me saluting them, when they come, instead of them standing up when they arrive, they are the ones who stand up when I arrive. And I used to always say,
now is the boss.
And I think I can attest to that all the time. I'll be saying, please be seated. I'll be so embarrassed to say, you know what, you are arriving here, first and foremost, you are late. Most of the time. You'll come late.
People have been waiting.
People have been waiting. And then they have to give you the respect by standing up because they've been waiting for you when they have other things to do. You understand? So I think this seven leadership we should start introspecting as politicians and make it exciting for people who vote for us. So I always used to say, I go address at the Khotla meeting, I'm here to bring back that which you sent me to do and bring the change, if there's any. How much you need to give me, you know, because I spend more than what you gave me. Things like those, you understand? So I agree with you that African politics is such that maybe at times we go into this politics looking for a job. And for me,
it's a bit of the self.
Yes, it's a bit of the self. You know what I'm saying? How much I'm going to earn, how much I'm going to do. And political, if I can share with you, you know, we are requested to declare assets when we became, you know, members of parliament and ministers. You know, the other time I was heartbroken. I even went to bed. I looked at the copy of my submission when I became a minister and member of parliament. What I had
at the time,
you know, looking at my account balances,
the asset base has declined, has deteriorated
completely. And I was thinking,
but you are the servant of the people now.
No, I'm being honest with you. And I've looked at it, and I can, anybody who wants to test it, they can come, because I'm a public figure. I strongly believe that when you're a public figure and you declare, you should see where I started. And when I get out of the office, you should see where I am. And I think
would you look me in the eye right now, despite your asset base having deteriorated, would you say there are others whose asset base have actually 10x'd and grew,
you know what,
by virtue of the position?
We live in this world. I'm saying, let me not explicitly say yes
there are
or
some.
no.
Yeah.
But let me say to you,
when you are a politician and you are the servant of the people, your asset base will decline.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Servant leadership.
It will decline.
Yeah.
Because remember,
your priorities have totally changed. Yeah. Transformation.
Your family, even at times, they become poorer while you are trying to enhance others' families' livelihoods. People demand funeral money from you. They'll come and tell you, I've done that many times, and I take it that many other politicians have done that, and they still do it. And they'll continue to do it. Whether the current politicians or the government or whoever.
That's a culture thing.
At times somebody will come crying at your door and say, I've lost a son, I've lost a mother, I've lost a relative. I don't have anything. I can't even bury them. I don't have a coffin. I don't have anything to give to people. I don't have transport to transport from the hospital, so from the mortuary to the village where they're going to be buried. And I can tell you, every politician, be it a councillor, be it a member of parliament, they do that.
No, they do that. They do that.
Yes,
they do that.
They do that. And at the same time, you have a family. You have other things that you've been doing that you have to maintain. So how do you then grow your asset base when you are not working? And you are actually not giving time to your business. You are giving time to servicing the constituents. But you're expected to make more money. From where? So if anyone's asset base increased and tenfold and whatever, there's something amiss. Yeah, there's something amiss. And I'm saying this with so much confidence because personally, I'm indebted to many organizations, many people. I'm struggling to make
to service
here and there. But I used to just sail. I used to just sail while I was focusing on my business and all those things. But the question then is, why do you want to go back into politics? I said, no, it doesn't matter. If, like I said, it's a calling. If you want to see the difference and maybe to change that narrative that I'm talking about, where people are dependent on politicians, you should go back and ensure that they are dependent on themselves because their economic status has changed or is changing. They are able to see the role of a politician differently because now they are able to bury their own. They are able to fend for themselves. They are able to buy food for their children. They are able to do this by increasing the size of the cake. Increasing the size of the cake such that everybody can have a piece. You understand? So this is very important. That's why I'm so driven in ensuring that maybe at some point I should have a position of influence, an ultimate position of leadership, such that I can be able to be more
to even influence the leaders, the political leaders.
While they are there, members of parliament, everything, and then change the trajectory.
That's part of the drive.
You understand?
I'm with you.
Part of what is driving me deep down inside. And people say, but we are going to continue being poor. I said, you know what? At my age, I'm very thankful for what Botswana has done for me and many others in terms of ensuring that there's a stable environment and there's democracy and there's rule of law, which is deteriorating, by the way. If you are not going to have other leaders coming in and ensuring that they instill that sense of which was very selfless. At times I was looking at Rahaone the other time, may his soul rest in peace. The likes of Bodike and many other parents who are there and many others. Borremorake, may his soul rest in peace. And many others who founded this. And look, how when they passed on, they were not wealthy people. But those who passed on and those who are alive.
They delivered at the time, which is my next question that I'm going to ask you. They delivered at the time and they should be resting in peace.
Exactly. They delivered. Look at the growth of our economy in terms of the GDP during their days.
Their times,
It was just amazing.
No, it was crucial.
Yeah, just amazing. And during tough times. Right now, if I drive to Hansi on a tarred road and come back, I'll come back here and say, I'm tired. And think about these guys. How were they reaching out to these people during the difficult
road
times?
From Lobatse there, it was just sand,
everywhere. Maung, Francis, everywhere. They built this country. And now I think we need to pay so much tribute to these leaders, these founding fathers and women and mothers who actually built this country because you can see, Hore, they had something that is totally different from the current crop of politicians.
This is very dear to me, and this is from literature. Apparently, Sesreta Khama did not like these huge, envoys. He kept it very small. The ministers' offices were very small. At the time, ministers, I don't know if ministers would not take even first class. And generally, even in terms of the discipline of building a country with limited resources, they practiced what they call fiscal conservatism. Yes. That is why we discussed earlier on about the 20 conservative surpluses that they had. Nearly, even in business, we talk about a bongame, there's a place for bongame. Because you got to look at the future and make sure So those things when Mpho and those and I associate them with who Botswana is. I mean, they were democratic because of our quota system. That's why Teresa and Boeing were part of the principles of the country at the time.
Yes.
So they did that. And there's even writers. I mean, I think I saw an article by someone from university in the US who wrote connected our quota system to the success of Botswana.
Exactly.
Something that we don't do enough.
Yes.
So then these guys did the project. As you said, GDP, everything in the around 1972, GDP was 26%. It was one of the highest in the world up to the 80s and so forth. So they did that. Now my question is, just to summarize the quality of the political leadership of who you've been one of them, how come it looks like now we are struggling to take Botswana to the next? And this has been said by experts. Professor Potter came here in 2012. He said, Botswana, you are underperforming relative to your potential. And I can mention many others. So there seems like, and in business, we talk about there's a founder and there's someone who's supposed to scale up. And the skills are different.
Yeah.
Are we struggling with the scaling aspect of now putting Botswana from good now to great? Yes. Because the fundamentals are there. Just as a last point, how would you talk to that?
You've just brought up a very important component of who we should be as politicians, as opposed to who we are as politicians. And talking about Michael Porter, when I was doing my master's, I remember I did some of my arguments in my dissertation was on the basis of what he said. Michael Porter. And when he came to Botswana, I made it a point that I attend that session.
You attended, yes.
Yes, I did. Through Business Botswana.
Oh, yes. When all of you with HE come there. I've got that video.
Oh, yes, yeah. And I was listening and I was saying, this man is a professor from Harvard everywhere. But he's talking the simplest thing that me and you know and can do. And over and above Michael Porter, there was an economist, an American economist, who I believe was Bill Clinton's senior economist, who once came here. He was called Stephen Stiglitz.
Yeah, Stiglitz. Yeah, we talked about it with Keith. Keith says he really has a high regard for me. He came here through Business Botswana, actually.
Yes, in Francistown.
Yes. Keith talked about it. Yeah.
Oh, yes.
I wasn't there, but
it was an amazing thing.
Oh.
Yeah. That guy came in here and he just said, you know what, look, I haven't visited Botswana, but I've been here for a few days. This country has got huge potential. And he said, you know what, one of the things that I want to tell you could do immediately is logistics. Logistics. I remember that vividly well. He said, you know what, you've got many people who are in logistics. They might be having 10 trucks, the other one have 20 trucks. The other one.
Pockets,
But we're in a junction. Trucks pass through here to Cape Town, to Durban, to everywhere, and all that. To DRC and all that. That was before even that. I don't know whether the one border stop at Kazungula was a product of that conversation or not, because I know it's been going on for a long time. But he was saying then you have to ensure that the dry ports, clearing facilities.
Yeah, it's easy.
Whatever,
it's easy. There's bureaucracy at the borders.
Yes, everything. along the Trans-Kalahari Highway. Ensure that there are truck stops where people could establish businesses for clearing. When somebody crosses into Angola thing, but the job has been done inland and all that. And if you ask Kore, how are you going to be this big? He said, okay, government, and I quote him, he said, government can buy trucks, many trucks, okay, like other countries do. Have a very well-organized logistics company owned by government.
make sure that it's efficient and it's effective. Once you have all the controls and systems in place, you give it back to the private sector.
You hive it off. Just like the Asian tigers did. They build these companies, and then once they are up there, they now started hiving them off.
Exactly. Yeah. Then you do that because then you would have, because you have the means and the capability of establishing these controls and systems and everything. But individuals won't be able to do that because they compete with other things. Then you would have started this thing. And then you also go into other areas. Make sure that we have huge, Botswana, you were saying, Botswana is very vast. You know, why can't you fence all this? You know, we had this cluster farming.
Yeah.
But cluster farming, you know what it does? You are fencing such that you close animals and other things out, but you still have individuals farm within the clustered fence.
Yeah.
So it does not respond to what then, if you want to scale up, you should do. If you cluster, make sure that you collapse all these little fences inside, like they do in China. I visited Guangzhou, some province in China, where they are exporting some oranges to Europe. They used to have small little things as individuals, and then they set up corporates, and then they collapse this little things.
And they do it in large scale. And they do
large scale, and they know how many hectares you own within that huge large scale. Then they bring implements
and use them efficiently because
professionals to make sure that you control the quality and everything. You understand? And when you harvest, you know your hectares have yielded this much. Those people, they've created a town from that concept in China. They stay in double stories. Before they used to stay in shacks, small houses. When they were individual, farmers, little farmers, they could not export anywhere. There was no quality control. There was no large-scale production. You understand? So those are some of the things that I strongly believe that we should start promoting. Not as politicians buying ourselves big farms and wanting to scale up and then wanting to export on our own. Let's do it with the masses. You understand? So the Hamas of those years, they were selfless. I'm not saying they were perfect, but they did a lot more than what we are not able to do ourselves right now, because there's too much individualism in our thing, and there's too much I'm better than you type of thing. There's too much, and I don't think we put our best foot forward. I don't think we take the best brains who can help.
That's correct.
Scale up this thing in the right places. I think we put, it's either people who we know or we know them somehow that you want to be in certain positions. As to whether they can deliver or not, it's another issue. I think once we open up and we don't politicize positions of leadership in institutions that can change lives
everywhere around here, put the right people,
and just put the right people
who have the skills
in those boards. And obviously there has to be checks and balances. When you put people there, obviously you should have targets.
No, sure.
This is what I want to.
Accountability has
to be there.
Yeah.
You understand? So now there are perceptions, whether real or not. People believe that you are not put in positions of power because you are capable. At times it's because you are Mpho's friend. At times it's because you are Mpho's relative. At times it's because you are affiliated to this political movement or not. But I think, if you remember, let's just take this thing, El Woseres, the national anthem. Something that is, from a branding and position of a country point of view, is the best thing that ever happened to it. Apparently the person, as you know, who actually composed that was Motseta, who was a member of opposition. Then, that's a very clear indicator
of the maturity.
The maturity of politics then. To say we can actually accept this iconic thing that is going to drive who we are as Botswana from an opposition guy. We can look at, for instance, the likes of, may his soul rest in peace, he was never a member of the BDP, but he was a
very close
ally.
Confidant to
Remogai. And he was also, at some point, I think he was, I don't know, but I know he contributed, and the wife was a nurse. I know that one. And we had Bo. No, there are many that I can mention.
So are you saying, having been at the call it the center of it,
yes,
you are not able to pivot it or influence the system such that those undesirable characteristics do not play out because they appear to be quite dominant. And it looks like you agree with it. They really currently in the political leadership, there are faults that are limiting us to take to the next. Because these things, Porter and all the good things about clusters, I mean, it's not being done to the level that can take the country to the next level. To bury inequality.
Exactly.
This issue of fiscal crisis that we are in. The question is, could it have been prevented? Because now we can say, hey, crisis. But in the end, proper leaders have actually been able to go through this type of crisis.
And during very small, I think when I was voting the first time, I think we were just over 1 million that time in Botswana. But the economy was thriving. The happiness index was very high.
It was much better.
It was much better. Yeah. And also, people always say, Botswana, we used to sleep outside the houses when it's hot.
Quick station too.
Yeah.
It was so hot. I remember my mother used to open the door and actually just sleep there.
And when these things, they work hand in hand. When the economic curve declines and there's a lot of strife and there's a lot of suffering, no jobs, no opportunities. The other industry,
crimes go up,
corruption goes up, and everything.
Social ills go up.
Yeah, but then if you focus on these crimes and build the tronco and do rehabilitation centers and whatever, we could be also, much as it's very necessary to respond to the challenges they present themselves. We should now be thinking, what can we do to avoid this thing continuing?
And reverse it.
Within a short space of time. You understand? So I remember my daughter one day, he was watching television. I think it was built up to a 2019 campaign. So one lady was on TV. He was saying, you should vote for us. Is what my party, okay? I was listening and he said, vote for us. Remember that Botswana, we built these roads. When we took independence, we had a 5-kilometer road. There were no educated people. They were not. So my daughter was listening with me there, okay? And when that clip, ended, she said to me, so Akiri, you are in power. Who else can do it? You are the ones who are supposed to do it. In actual fact, personally, I'm not satisfied that you are doing it. And now you are telling us about, you've been in power, Daddy, for 50, now she's arguing with me. We've been in power. Now you are telling us what you have done. Actually, you have given you the mandate to go and do it.
Exactly, to sort things out.
Now you're
reminding us about 5 kilometers of road.
About the
poorest, what, yes. They can't even relate, these kids.
And she asked me, if every individual can stand up and say, ever since I started working here, I paid so much tax, account for my tax, what are you going to say? The point is, we cannot keep on only looking back. History is there to be, you cannot change it. It's there as a reference point. But we should be looking ahead and saying, the foundation, the very good foundation that actually was laid by our forefathers and mothers. What is it that you have done about it to take it to another level? To another level. Is it important to have more security and tankers and many vehicles around me and protect myself? What protects the electorate out there? Are they well protected? I remember I used to see Raha going to church in the morning, crossing the mall from the State House to Trinity, walking with two security people. And president.
Even Rakama used to shop Kumolo during our days.
You understand? So now, I think what
now
is
you
very
have to
important,
build all these walls.
All these walls.
Because we have not succeeded in building a society that's together, that's humane-led.
That look after each other.
Absolutely.
And I always say the best security, and I say this all the time, the best security is to love your neighbor and live in harmony with your neighbor and love the people around you and appreciate humanity. That's the best security. Because you can build a house, put locks in it, put trellis doors in it, put an electric fence, cameras, dogs and a guard. You understand? And still not be secure. But if you are neighborly, if you love Munkawena,
it will save your money.
Like I talked about, it will save your peace, everything. Even when you forget to close your garage door and you leave for a weekend, your neighbors, they can see or hear they will be on the lookout. They will know that, and if you tell them, I'm not here, for the weekend. So there's no one at home. And you just don't just walk out and not talk to them. You don't even greet them. They wouldn't know, even if they see people loading stuff at your house. They'll say, Ghana, this one, he never talks to people. So maybe he's moving. Then people are stealing from you. You understand? This whole notion of when you feel you have arrived, like in Pakalani and other areas, they always say, hey, so this whole thing of saying, like a flower. You remember?
Yes.
That was massive.
It was massive.
Yeah. Right now, you can't even go reach out to your neighbor and request for something. So I'm saying this because the point to scale up that which our
founding fathers managed to lay the foundation.
And from an economic point of view, you always say the market is the people. So as people increases, opportunity, the purchasing power and the potential for growth increases. Think about this. These people were doing that and having those savings for the country as an opportunity for growth going forward. When the population was very small, when there was problems in the region, trading was a problem. Right now, the borders are a bit more open.
There's Africa, continental free trade.
Everything. So I take it that it's a challenge to us, me included, as a politician, to say, you know what, look, we should start now talking about this thing properly. And people always ask me, what difference are you going to make? You know, I was shocked the other time. Even yesterday, I went to the Habarani's place, you know, may his soul rest in peace, Relina, Habarani, you know, Komerapelo. And I saw a group of people coming to me and say, hey, Balopi, it's been a while. You know how my life has changed because of YIF, Young Entrepreneurs Empowerment Forum. Young Entrepreneurial Empowerment Forum. Program. So I used to say to the university students who were telling me, some of them yesterday, they took up the ideas. I said, CapEx, capital expenditure when you start a business is always a challenge. But there are certain businesses that you as students can do without money. Example, I said to them, you know, I'm just trying to respond to how we can scale up, isn't it? If you do this, many of us. I said to them, at UB, you are almost 16,000, 17,000 students. You eat dinner around 6 o'clock. And then you start, you read until the wee hours of the morning. At some point, you need to eat bread, isn't it? And everything. So why don't some of you here come together, do a business that sells bread? You don't need to go and buy bread. You go to Capri Bakery or whoever the bakery was at that particular time. You order 5,000 loaves. You take orders. You know you need 5,000 loaves in this school only, other than people walking to Poppin, walking to whatever everywhere, to buy. They deliver to you at school. And then you charge them 10%. Okay? You just want 10% discount from the baseline price you brought. So imagine if a loaf of bread is 5 pula and you are getting 50 tebe from 50 or 10,000 or 5,000 loaves. As a student, it's money. No cost. And over and above that, this loaf comes in a plastic bag. And I think some of these guys are listening. It's a business model. They can do it. And when you come in a plastic bag, it's airtime for you. Well, you want. Like airtime is about feeding you to continue calling. But now this is units for you to eat such that you continue studying. Go to Mascom, go to Orange, go to Bimbo, whoever. Brand these plastic bags with their concepts and their products and other things to sell. Then every plastic bag, as we get it from KPI, is branded. You get 3 pula or 2 pula 50 from every plastic. Then it's marketing from Mascom. You get another 2. How much have you spent? I'm just giving you an example. So many of them, and accommodation. How many of you want accommodation? Why don't you have a real estate small business here? Talk to those who build student accommodation. You are the agents. You are the ones who are in school with these people.
You know who
wants accommodation. You know the list. Put them together, go as a bunch to these people who are selling, who are actually letting out student accommodation and do it in bulk. And they give you 1 month rental as it is a normal practice in the real estate business for many of those units. How much money will you make? So just to try and cultivate and instill that sense of entrepreneurship at a young age so that they don't get out of university to go and look out for what? For jobs. For jobs,
yeah.
They start growing.
And they despair because they can't find the jobs.
And I was saying, around the university, many universities in the world. You know, you are well-traveled, you schooled abroad and all that. You know, all these universities, they have businesses around them.
No, around the university ecosystem. It's an economic ecosystem.
Yeah. So why don't we do this kind of thing so that we resolve this issue of this thing? And I understand that people are not paid adequately. It's never enough.
Yeah.
Like others are talking about 4,000 people. I don't know whether it's attainable in the short term or not. But of course, you've seen some companies say, us will do it for whatever reasons. That is yet to be interrogated by you.
I'll call them to the show.
And you please call them to the show.
I will.
But this is going to impede growth in terms of employment. Because one of the biggest costs in businesses is labor.
The staff cost. Yeah.
Staff costs. So it means if I increase the thing, it means I have to reduce the volume of people that is there. I mean, that's food for thought. So these are the kind of things, as politicians, we come up with these things. We should keep on interrogating this thing and see the reality of these things happening and what else can they impact so that we don't play to the gallery. We rather become very realistic. And Botswana should understand that we have to grow organically to ultimately reach that pinnacle that you want to reach. But without telling them things that we cannot achieve.
Absolutely, yeah.
Do you get my point?
Unrealistic.
That's why politics becomes bad.
Unattractive
to people to say, you make promises that you cannot fulfill. But I think we should change the narrative. So that it becomes a career like any other career. In actual fact, the most important career because it's the one that controls.
And makes the biggest impact.
And makes the biggest impact.
The liver.
Yeah, exactly. So I think, I hope I responded to your, to your last question adequately, but it's all up to all of us, including yourself and everybody else, to know that we are all politicians. But the biggest thing that I like about Botswana now is the maturing democracy. Are you talking about the recent elections? Is it a sign it's an indicator.
It's an indicator.
For me, it's an indicator because for the longest time, it was inconceivable. Even for me, in my head, to say, how can life be without BDP in power? My party that I love so very much. But I know very well that the change that Botswana has effected, it will also effect change within the BDP.
Okay.
In terms of now scaling up, introspecting, and now becoming a bit more aggressive and putting people at the center of everything and putting reality at the center of everything and creating unity and tolerance within us because we are humbled. As you are humbled, you cannot come back the same way. You can't.
Are you humbled?
Very much so.
Not you personally, but I'm referring to the party that lost the elections with such a huge...
But there are those who seem not to be humbled. But I hope everybody... At times, the response to a shock differs.
Exactly.
There are those who can fall and collapse and become unconscious for some time. There are those who are going to be angry. And there are those who are going to be in shock for too long for them to effect the change that they should change.
Correct.
So you understand? So I really believe this is going to be the end beneficiary in this democratic, development is going to be Botswana, because whoever will take the position of leadership and power will know that now.
5 years.
If I don't,
it's
possible to. It's possible to change.
I've been shocked whether Mpho, because even looking at some youngsters who have never voted, for some reason there was this wave where a lot of young people voted. But what amazed me is after the elections, the interest in politics has been rigged. That's why this podcast was so important, because as an experienced someone, I just wanted you to, the audience is now I'm interested, it's happening. Now what can I do? What are the principles? What is, what can be a role so that it becomes attractive again, hopefully.
But bad things are not always bad. At times to experience good things, you have to experience a bad thing.
Absolutely, yes.
I remember when my dad passed on, that's when I realized that I've got to get married. I'm on my own. You see, change in politics and interest in politics started off when the fourth president of this country left the country and went and stayed outside the country and stated that he's running away from certain things. I think that was a shocker. We should not just look at the elections and say, when did people start being very conscious
Yes,
and
when did it start?
and taking interest in politics. These things we used to hear about them elsewhere in other countries in the continent, even abroad. Assad, what has happened now?
Yes. Just overnight.
Just overnight.
Overnight, yeah.
But we used to hear about these things. When that happened, people took interest for, so everybody started interest.
Yes,
that's why when you knew that our stronghold has always been the Central District because it's Saratakamas territory, the founding father of BDP. And all of a sudden, those people voted against us, against the BDP. That's political consciousness. They were able to see beyond what you could see.
That's true.
And this thing has been growing. Now it manifested itself into what we're experiencing now. So it's a maturity at a different level from a political point of view.
Giving you another example, being not into politics, but that was a quite interesting observation, was also what happened in Baro, in our home village, where, first of all, there's always a perception that people vote Wanabone. Kana Barolong, Batopile, what we call cousins, which was again political consciousness where it is possible. Definitely. And then also when they are challenged about who they perceive to have voted, they can actually know or they can still speak through the vote.
Definitely.
So that was quite amazing.
That's maturity. You can give a lot of examples now. To say now people are no more just towing the line. They are just they compare and contrast.
We have a dissenting. Voter now.
Exactly. We have a dissenting voter now. Somebody told me, and I was surprised. He said he was in Shakawe just 2 days before elections, and he was at a supermarket. He found an old woman there. So he tried to interest her to vote for us, for BDP, in Shakawe. So he said to this lady, obviously, the most likelihood was that if this is an elderly lady, she will obviously maybe listen to me and vote for the BDP. So he then approached this lady and said, can I do top of the in the next 2 days? So hopefully you're going to vote for us. He said, what? Not when you are treating the Koloti like this in Shakawe. And that's political consciousness that I'm talking about.
And technology, because the news moves so fast.
When you think you are dealing with
a localized situation.
The same applies to how the Motsoaledi effect affected us in 2014. You see, it resonated not only with Gaborone where he wanted to stand.
Everywhere else.
It was now everywhere because people now were talking about the rule of law. They were thinking governance. They were thinking unfair treatment. And they were thinking an injury to one might just be an injury to all. You understand? So these are some of the lessons that I believe we should humbly accept and be able to continue differently going forward in terms of this. And so the answer as to whether now we are progressing democratically or are we stagnant? No, we are progressing.
There are signs that the maturity.
People, and the youth never used to vote. That's another thing. The youth, they never used to vote.
Whenever.
Whenever. So what they will do, they'll go and drink the whole night. In the morning, they are babalas.
They don't even go.
They won't vote. But now they vote. You see, so for me, it's a challenge. I strongly believe that I can contribute to the resuscitation and the growth. And before I talk about the resuscitation of the BDP, the future of politics in Botswana, as part of, and it's my conviction, and this is what I believe in. I don't think there's ever going to be a dominating or a dominant political party going forward, ever.
Very good point, because there are people that are putting a death sentence on the BDP, and I was keen on your comment.
Yes, I'll comment. There's never going to be a dominating party. You know, BDP was very dominant for 58 years. And going forward, as you can see globally, not only in Africa, in many other places globally, coalitions
happen, changes are ongoing. Like Zambia. Zambia has always been fluid in terms of changes.
You understand? And this thing, the end beneficiary of such is going to be the voter. And if you are so good and you are given 2 terms or 3 terms or 4 terms, then you should know that you are extraordinarily good.
seven leadership,
seven leadership
on Stuart.
On Stuart and on steroids.
On steroids, yeah.
On steroids.
Yeah.
So I strongly believe that we are very strong as the BDP. We have attained 30% of the popular vote. And the coalition that is in power, the UDC, has attained 37%.
7% away.
7%
it's
away.
37% with 37 MPs, something like that, yeah.
Yes, and us 30% with four MPs.
Yeah.
Much as people say statistics are not necessarily the right measure, but they're always going to be the right measure because then systems around the statistics speaks to then why do we have four MPs? And you know, I was joking with somebody yesterday. I was saying, okay, let's take 37 MPs of the UDC and divide the numbers that voted for them so that you look at how many voted for one parliament.
Per capita, yeah. MP, yes, yeah.
The highest per capita is BDP.
Which means,
yes. you see, the highest per capita is BDP. Because on average, we are voted by more than 65,000 per MP. You get my point?
No, I get you.
So the system of first past the post, much as we've been enjoying it
for so long. Yes, and resisting to change it.
And resisting to change it.
Yeah.
Now it's one of the things that here they are. So the very system, we have been very resistant knocked us off. But the question now, putting aside whether we are resisting or not, who is suffering? I mean, 30% of the population of those who voted, okay, are represented by four people.
Yeah, it's not proportional representation.
It's not proportional representation.
It's first past the post.
That's why, personally, much as I'm guilty as Charles, as I said earlier, I think we should now start looking not for the benefit of the BDP in future, no, or for the benefit of any political party in future, but for the benefit of those who send us to represent them.
Correct.
They should have true representation that reflects their voices, that reflects their choices.
So you favor proportional representation then, now that you're from Lesotho?
No,
I'm just joking.
No, I've always believed that
when
you're talking about maturity of democracy, these are some of the changes that we should effect. You know, when we are transforming the way we've been doing things, I think this is the conversations that we should now have on the table. You understand? So we cannot just have it as business as usual. I think now you have to be accountable to those who vote for us. So they should see there are people representing them.
Because it does. I mean, in terms of percentage of people who vote, the numbers drop purely because they feel, what is worthy of my vote?
You know, for instance,
if I can't be impactful.
Inclusivity. I've seen the current government led by President Boko that there is a bit of, because BPF was not part of the UDC when they went for elections. I've seen that he has included them in the cabinet. And I think it's an acknowledgement of the percentage that they represent, you know, and other specially elected members as he was doing that, and all that. And even in terms of specially elected members, I'm one of the people who do not necessarily support that specially elected members should be. It's not. I don't think it's very democratic. I strongly believe that. I strongly believe that as we review our constitution, we should, if we believe that women are not partaking as they should because they are overpowered by men. As you know, that's what it is in politics. You know, the women cannot withstand insults and rebuke.
Exactly. And all these stuff at the Freedom Square, the language that you use,
they first think of their children. They first think of their children instead of going to expose themselves. As men, you know, we are men. You understand? I think we need to start thinking of having constitutionally a quota for women. If it says 30% or it's 40% or it's 50%, whatever that we agree on, there should be constituencies in the constitution.
Because this parliament is probably one of the worst in terms of women representation.
Yes.
It's really...
Last time I was in Rwanda, was about 62%, 67%.
Is it constitutionally accommodated in Rwanda?
No, Rwanda, I think, is somehow accommodated, but women are empowering. I think it's because of the genocide. I always say maybe most of the men died in 94 genocide. And
it affected the demography.
It affected the demography. I always think so. But I don't think the quota is such that women are more than men. I don't think so.
Yeah.
I think women have found a space that men found in Botswana to be dominant and dominating in politics because they were allowed to do that.
Correct.
I'm not sure about the constitution. I haven't checked exactly what's the quota in terms of their constitution. But I think 67, 62% is too high to accept that it can be a quota.
Yeah, so you don't want to now move the pendulum to the other side.
Exactly. So if you say 30% from the beginning or 40 or 50, whatever that we agree on, and you say constituencies of Gaborone North and Gaborone Central, for instance, Molepolle South, ko Molepolle, Koborolong, Kanteka Hela, go Hamawate, the three constituencies, one of them, until we get to half or 30% or 40. These ones are reserved for women. We understand? Identify them. So that even when there's contestation in terms of primary elections to identify who is going to stand there, every political party knows that it has to be a woman.
It has to be a woman, yeah.
That's how you can allow women to really participate meaningfully. Because I strongly believe that if you can have more women in parliament participating meaningfully, increasingly we'll be able to have a very balanced
and the love
society.
And the love, the humanistic approach.
Yes.
The macho men will be sobered.
But for now, we are not ready. We are far from ready to accept women as leaders directly as they come to us. But I strongly believe it has to be a constitutional thing.
Okay.
And the youth, the people living with disability and all those things, it has to be a deliberate thing from all structures, not only from politics, from even business politics.
No, business politics.
From everywhere. Just balance it from a thing.
Government everywhere.
I have a daughter and a son at Andrea, and as they were growing up, I did not want any one of them to, if I buy a toy, I don't want to buy a toy for a girl and a toy for a guy. No. Yeah. It has to be the same so that they play with the same toys. You understand? At a very young age, little quad bikes, if you buy, people say, this is a girl, she'll hurt herself. No. Ride it. You understand? So we should start even from family units. The same as we should start this knowledge economy from family units. We should start measuring what we cook so that we perfect them. We perfect them to be able to come up with recipes that we can sell.
Yes.
So at the end of the day,
just the final words. We've just come into an end now.
Yes.
Just your final words.
I strongly believe that Botswana has a lot of potential. And the potential that Botswana has emanates from the people of Botswana, really. They are not harsh people. They are very people who can be receptive to anything that is progressive. And they are fragile because they are good people.
Yeah.
So when they are hurt and they are not happy about something, they respond in the manner that you've seen in recent times, but respond like a thing. But at the same time, if we come up with very good things, I think they'll still be very receptive and accept the changes that are progressive, that they can, benefit from and progress this country. So we should try and focus on our DNA as Botswana. Who are we? What kind of people are we? Are we people who can, when engaged and involved properly, can we transform this economy? Do we have, and I'm saying this because of extended families, one can come from Ramatlabama and go marry and Ramokhwebana like you. Nangkwasha, you understand?
Yeah.
So there's all this interrelations and intermarriage. That's why tribalism has no space in this country, and it will never have space in this country because I've never heard what the No. Yes, playfully so. Playfully so, So I strongly believe that this country deserves a lot more, in terms of engaging Botswana, engaging, the electorates, because we are talking politics, to take charge and to be servant leaders and to also introspect and say to ourselves, what is it that our forefathers or the founding fathers, and also to depart from thinking that your mother and your father and your relatives and your sisters are not politicians.
Yeah.
They are politicians because they are the ones who shaped how things should turn out by giving responsibility to others. Yeah. So even
casting a vote is politics.
It's politics. It's politics. Even when you complain that you've had no water and you've paid a bill, that's politics. You understand what I'm saying? So we should never, ever at any given time disassociate ourselves from politics. We are all politicians. But it's only that others are sent to go and represent other politicians. So those politicians who are many in the democratic dispensation are the ones who are supposed to be in control, not the ones who are sent to go and represent these people. So
no, beautiful. No, thanks very much for being candid. And I'm sure lots of lessons that you've pulled out. And I really appreciate the time that you gave. Thanks very much.
No, I appreciate, I don't mind talking.
You're a politician.
I'm a politician.
Yeah, you can talk forever.
So
I have to stop
I really appreciate the opportunity that you've given me. Even personally, I think, sharing with people every day and the good work that you're doing. I mean, this podcast, I must say that I really appreciate the kind of work, job that you're doing at a personal level. The lessons that you're sharing with people in terms of health, in terms of certain things that you're experiencing that you can give to them. And indeed, it shows that you are grown up. Your ego now is not there anymore. You don't want to keep it to yourself and say, I want people to really see me as a young guy. They shouldn't know how I do it. Right now, sharing comes in with maturity. And also, and I would like to appreciate your crew in terms of the good work that you always do. I've seen from an economic point of view, from politics, from everything. Even your child, your own son.
Monty with
Monty, I've seen his podcast in terms of his educational journey and other things. That's really inspiring. People should share our stories.
No, absolutely. Thank you so much.
Our motto at Stride as well.
What is it?
Our stories, our strides.
Our stories are strides, isn't it?
Yes, our strides. You know what I'm saying?
I'm busy writing a book, by the way. It's called, we debated about the name. Now, because InnoLead has been quite at the heart of what I'm doing.
Oh, yes.
The book name is called InnoLead.
Oh, wow.
And it just takes back right from childhood, how it influenced my entrepreneurial journey up to date. So it will be published we're launching it in late January.
No. I have to be
some
there
overseas.
Yes, I'll be there. I'll be there to really appreciate that. But, that's part of also the maturity and the 7 leadership that we're talking about. Because literature, as I talked to you earlier about, I read a lot of books. And mainly my books are
at the end, I want you to, just one book that's made a big impact on you, just to share with the viewers.
I brought this book.
Oh, you brought the book.
I brought this book so that you see the title. And you share it and you see. I wish every leader.
Purposeful Leadership for Africa. In the 21st Century by Lumkile Wiseman Nkulu. That's a businessman in South Africa, isn't it?
Yes, he's the one who wrote that KPMG thing. And
that's the book
the one.
Why are you recommending this book? Why is this so special?
I'm recommending this book because of exactly what you've been talking about, servant leadership and taking the interest of those that elect us into power seriously and changing the narrative of thinking that now it's all about the people. It's not about us who are in positions of leadership.
Turning it around.
Turning it around. This is what I like about what the author mentions in that. And there's another book that I like. It's called We Need More Tables.
We Need More Tables. The tables are too few.
By Norma Young. And he's talking about his navigating privilege in the face of poverty. Navigating privilege in the face of poverty. Norma Young. It's a very, very important read. And I think you go to more thing, they make the circle bigger.
Bigger for everyone to get something out of it.
To get something out of it. Because, of course, you can see there are those that are privileged. But now, in the land of plenty, how do you then navigate, bring others on board? You understand? Because there has to be something for people to admire to have.
Correct.
But what is important is that the one who has it, is he willing to share?
To share with others. Norma Young.
Norma Young.
Yeah.
Norma Young. And if you are not willing to share, then they'll steal it from you.
Yeah, that's correct.
Other than that, I like biographies, many of those. But the other book that I like is by Barack Obama, A Promised Land. I think you might have come across it.
I think it's here somewhere in my bookshelf.
And then Conversations with Myself by Nelson Mandela.
and many other biographies by your Robert Kiyosaki, your Warren Buffett, your Donald Trump. You know, I used to read Donald Trump's books.
Then I got angry. I also read his book. Then I got angry. Like, this is the guy.
You know what?
I was so
that's
angry.
why at times you can laugh somebody when he's doing something else.
Exactly, yes.
You know, once he became a I said, is this the guy that I admire so
me
much in terms of
the
this
book
thing?
and they're like, Jesus.
And of course, local people who inspired me in terms of their biographies. I do read local biographies because you have to bring it closer home.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
closer home. And, you know, I've read Dabo Re Matenge, Mahang, Persevere, all those biographies and all those things. And besides that, the biggest novel that I love is the Bible.
The Bible.
You know, I always tell people that
the true north.
All novels, all set books, all biographies, everything, every literature, including newspapers, put together can never tell the story of the Bible.
Really?
It's a very good story. It cuts right across every aspect, including
of life.
Engineering.
Yeah,
you
engineering.
know, everything, every profession, you find it there. And you know, I don't know, the authors of that story of the Bible, they're amazing. And if you read the Bible, definitely. And that's why you see politicians.
And you're talking almost 2,000 years ago. I mean, I sometimes get
it's amazing, and it's still more than relevant.
Yeah.
You understand? More than 2,000 ago. But 2,000 years ago. But think about it. Which politician you haven't heard quoting the Bible at a rally?
Yeah, that's true.
Because they know it's an emotive thing.
Yes.
Once you talk about the Bible, it hits home.
It hits home.
You understand? And if they live by that,
that's a different matter.
Yeah,
that's a different matter.
We all live by that, then you'll be a better country, a better people.
No, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I really appreciate it. And all the best.
Thank you, my man. Yeah.
All the best.
We will try. We will try.
Thank you for joining us on this journey of growth and discovery. We hope today's episode has inspired you to dig deeper and rise higher in your personal and professional life. Keep tuning into the Growth Well podcast for more stories, insights, and strategies to help Africa grow and thrive. Until next time, stay curious, stay inspired, and keep growing. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell.